right, we will go with what we have.
Okay. Hi, Dr. Baird.
So I invited you to let's talk. Let's just talk about your work and especially this poem that you wrote called Duendes. I heard it and I was drawn to it because of the subject matter. What is Duendes?
So, duendes are spirits, usually likened to tiny elves, right, or even goblins. And they're known to be pretty mischievous. In the Philippines, we see duendes as they can be benevolent, right, if they like you, but they can also cause trouble if you offend them or if they don't like you.
We have similar stories of entities like Baku. Baku is supposed to be a short man that he can bring riches to you or he can take away riches. And I don't think he's pretty. He's a short, ugly thing. I've never seen it, but people say they have them. And people who own Baku are usually rich people because they feed them and they send them to go get riches for them. So if you see a person with lots of banana trees, you might suspect that they have Baku. And if they're rich, they have Baku too. You can't pick up bottles that are covered, buried in the ground, because they say when you want to get rid of a Baku, a bad Baku, you put him in the bottle, you lure him in there with banana and milk and stuff, and he goes in there, you stop it tight and you bury the Baku. So they say, after years and so on, people might buy property and don't even know the Baku is buried there. And so they dig it up and then they open the bottle and next thing you know, Baku's out and performing a lot of things in the community. And we have a saying that says, stranger, na no burial ground. Yeah. Young people say, what's this old lady saying at all? That was long time days, it's whatever. But like you say, it's not the long time days, it's the respect. So for those who are listening to us and want to know why we're telling these stories of things gone before and other, it's about respect and how we situate ourselves now, tell us how we align ourselves with our past and maybe with our future. Because if you don't respect it, then any old person will come into your space, into your lands or your let's say places and do whatever they want because you don't have rules, you don't have respect, you don't have anything, and that's not good enough. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So there's one that I had written that I want to share with you in return as reciprocity. So I wrote a piece called The Gaze of the Kamaka Tree. It's a book. I haven't published this book yet, so I'm reading unpublished work. And I'm writing the history of the village from the Kamaka tree. The Kamaka tree is a big tree in our village. It usually grows in burial grounds, in cemeteries. And I'm writing it from the viewpoint of this tree. So this one is called The Ones in the Kamaka Tree Watch. The ones who live in the Kamaka Tree watch. Watch over the ones under the Kamaka Tree from their perch stories in the sky. And when the pods break and the silk cotton blankets the village, listen to the old women's murmur. It's a sign. Them spirit a come down to touch their land, the village, by bird call, by carrying crow flight. 9 night, 40 night, come true, wake, in rum drinking, house building, and drum beating. Now that the tree has fallen, where did the spirits go? And while we're pondering, tell me, when have you ever seen a Kamaka sapling? When Kamaka falls to flood or natural causes down from battered bark and bough, where do the spirits go? To another tree? And when we do, by just being, ascending a tree, and while wandering, see Kumaka tree, does your spirit need to be in a tree? Now, these are some of the things I'm speaking to, some of the beliefs that surround this tree. It's a mysterious tree, almost has a numinous about it, at least for me, because there's so many tales. You know, I have greats and grandmothers and so on who are buried under that tree or in the shadow of the Kamaka tree. So anytime I go home, I look at this tree and I marvel because I've heard the spirits go up there. And Kamaka is an Amerindian word, the native people of South America. And they say that when people die, the spirits go live in the tree. Now, the Black people who were descendants of the formerly enslaved Africans, they came and occupied that land and became a Creole indigenous of the land. So the land now belongs to them and to us, the descendants. But they have a similar story of the spirits in the tree. As a matter of fact, one of my friends told me her grandmother said, when I die, I'm going to be up in that Kamaka tree swinging my foot. Because they used to have a dance happening at the school next day. She said, I'm going to be over there swinging my foot and watching all y'all going to the dance. So that's one of the things I admire about that tree, that, you know, when your work spoke to me, I thought about that tree. Yeah.
I love how, yeah, as you were reading that, I was thinking about the Tautamana trees here
Yes.
on Guam.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. And just, you know, the reverence that you have for these trees, right? That
Yes.
there's spirits there, that you don't mess with the tree, you don't cut it down, that there are right, that's the home of those that have come before. And so you have to have that due reverence. And it's so interesting that you mentioned that there's that tree where, you know, she's gonna go there and she's gonna watch. She's gonna watch because I don't know, at least in the Philippines, if there's something similar to my knowledge, but, you know, coming to Guam, that's one of the first things they tell you, right? Be careful of Tautamana trees. The elementary school that I went to years ago has a Tautamana tree right in the middle of the playground. And so they have all the swings and the dodgeball, you know, the tether balls all around it, but they know not to touch the tree. And they tell the kids, you know, please be careful as you guys are running around the tree. Just be careful around it, right? Be respectful. And it's still there. It's still there.
Yeah, that's the kind of reverence. I remember when I wrote this poem and quite a few others. The students from the Philippines and Guam, they reacted to the poem, and one of them said, "Ooh, spooky tree." It's another story that I wrote, another piece, and she said, "Ooh, spooky! I want to hear more about that." And she said it reminded me of the Tatamona tree, and so I realized that there was a connection with trees, what they mean to us. Back to the same thing. When strangers come into our land, they just see trees. But we just don't see trees. We see trees with meaning, you know? If at the very least they shade our land, they're shade for us, they're shade for our animals, they're shade for us, because a lot of stuff that we Guyanese do, we do under trees. We sleep on the trees, we have hammocks in trees, we eat from the trees, we go under there to do housework, we read on the trees. There's so many things on the trees. As a matter of fact, when I was a kid, that's where they used to put you to take naps. They get the crocodile bag, or what we call what are they called, jute bags, and they would spread them on the ground and lay down, and then you sleep under there. Yeah, so cool. Yeah.
I love that. And it sounds like it's not, stay away from it, right? It's not, it's be mindful of it. Just be mindful of your interactions with the tree, right?
Yeah. Also, the Kamaka tree, or the Duendes, or the Tatamona trees, to me, they're waymarks or landmarks of how we establish home. whether we're in our native land or we're elsewhere. Because I remember when I was doing research about my place, for the first time I'm focusing on where I come from, thinking about what do I tell people about this place. So I Googled the place and I see what they said. I'm like, damn, these people, many of the things that they were saying weren't nice things, And so I wanted a map of the village, and I couldn't find a map of the village itself. I found surroundings and stuff like that, but I couldn't find a clean map. But as I was looking, I could see places that were neighboring places with names, but I couldn't see exact names of places in my village itself. So I kept looking at, I was so frustrated. I'm like, why can't I see this village? Eventually, when I zoomed in, I saw some white squares and trees. And I started thinking, is this litter they have on the ground? They trashed the place. What is this? I started feeling ashamed. But then it dawned on me it was something else. And I realized what it was. And so I wrote this poem about it. And it's called Finding My Kumaka Land. Far from my Kumaka land, Buxton village, I tried to go home again by satellite. No body, no eyes. Yet from its perch high in the sky, it sees my home. Google Earth shows me my village, a poverty of images. I zoom in on rectangles, white. Some after-party rubbish, litter laying around the ground, sprawling on the green branches. No body, no eyes. I zoom for perspective. Virtual angles moving by mouse, walking through the street, this street and that. Why do I see no house? I have been gone a while. I have not touched the land, the village, not felt it with my feet. How do I go home again? Zoom in, zoom out, pan in, pan out. White trees, trees and white, searching by index finger and thumb. What are these white rectangles and trees? Kamaka, tree and tombstones. Not one without the other. Both are the homes of my ancestors. Both my cyber beacon, another way to walk home. So that's how I found home. Tree in the cemetery and the tombs. And once I could locate that tree, I could locate everything else.
Your landmark. Yeah.
Yes, once I saw that tree, I know the school is here, that's there, that's there, that's there, and I can map the whole village that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's where your poem took me.
Yeah, it's just so interesting to see, you have these customs, you have these beliefs passed on, and you go to different places and you realize it's not that different. We share a lot of the same beliefs, a lot of the same values.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would say keep up the good work. When once we write them down, we can revisit them. And I find that with work like this, the more you address them, the more layers they have, the more peelings you have. Because like you just told the story about your grandmother, I want to know, well, about her upbringing. What did she learn from her people about that same thing? Did she learn it? Was she told overtly? What was her experiences with the duendes? So if there are people watching us and they know duende stories, I would love to hear more about them. Yeah, and we just have the Baku and the Olhaig. Olhaig is this woman who sucks children, sucks their blood. You didn't know about Olhaig?
No, we have something very similar in the Philippines.
Really?
Yes. But it's more specific to pregnant women. So they say if you're pregnant, you shouldn't be walking out at night because we have something called the manananggal, and it's she is a woman. She takes the form of a woman, but she's similar also to a vampire, where she has this long tongue that is used to. So she uses her tongue to penetrate the pregnant woman's belly to suck out the baby.
Wow.
And so it's similar, right? That it's almost like this vampire figure. It's female, and she preys on pregnant women. So we have these beliefs of, if you're pregnant, this is the laundry list of things you can and can't do.
Yeah.
Um,
For us, the vampire-like woman is called a old hag. In other parts in the Caribbean, she calls Sukwanti or something like that. Blegeze. In Jamaica, it's Blegeze. But it's the same kind of character. But this one in Guyana, she can come through the keyhole. She sheds her skin and put it in a calabash. She sheds her skin and she comes through the keyhole, poof, and then she goes and she finds the baby and she sucks the baby dry. And then she would leave. But to stop her, you have to get this broom, like a broom from a palm tree, a special kind of broom called the manicold broom. And you can put it there. You have to put rice because she cannot cross rice. If she see the rice, she has to count. She has to count, and if she counts, if she missed one rice grain, she can start over. So sometimes daylight would come and catch her counting, and then you get the broom and beat her. All of that. So there's a whole poem about that. And you have to put the baby to wear blue nightgown. Now this is not like pregnant women; it's the baby after it's birth. You know, young baby. So the baby has to wear blue nightgown. So if she comes in, okay, and she finds the baby and she says, "Oh God, this baby nightgown blue," she got to bolt for the door, and then she comes with the rice, and she can't cross. And then they get the manicold broom. So that's the woman. There's a man counterpart. He's called a fire ass. So they say they skin fire, and when they come and do their business, they will travel in a blaze of fire. Don't even ask me how. The blaze of fire. And so people will say, you know, they saw somebody, the fire in the night, the fire ass skin in fire, and they would try to trace who it is. They will find blood going to somebody's house. I don't know where to put that because to me, that's borders on elder abuse. Because if they suspect someone, and this someone is an old person whose mouth begins to shake and go like this, then next thing you know, they say you sucking. And then all hell break out on you because you become the person who's scorned and abused and say you're the one that did this to this person's child when the child gets sick. So all of those things, and I've addressed that elsewhere. So we have that with the pregnant woman and things like that. Yeah. So it's nice that you tell me that one.
There's so many, there's so many beliefs, and every time I would visit, I was very lucky. Pre-pandemic, I would be able to go home to the Philippines at least once a year, and my grandmother and my mom's side, right, my ina, we live in the province, and so there are always so many things. They worry like, oh, you're not from here. You need to be extra careful because they know that you don't live here.
Fresh blood.
Right. And so my grandmother, she, there was always stories that in our village that there are the equivalent to witches, right, where they're malevolent, that they put hexes or they put curses on you. And so she has this amulet that she would create for us whenever we'd go home, and she would sew a little pouch, and it would include a little bit of salt, a hot pepper, and a bullet. It would include an unshot bullet.
What? Where'd she find a bullet?
I have no clue where my 70-year-old grandmother was finding these unfired bullets, but she would sew them up in a little pouch and she would pin them, inside my shirt. And she said, anytime you go out, wear that with you because, the bad witches, they don't like it. They'll stay away from you. And she would say things like, if someone from the village that you're not aware of comes up to you and starts talking to you and they touch you, right, be careful of that. The touch, they might be leaving some sort of curse on you. And so she said, if that happens, give it back, right? If they touch you, right, they're like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. You're so big now. They touch you, give it back. Say, oh yeah,
touch them back. Oh,
right. And so she always had these curses, counter curses, right? And so it's things that you carry. Like I carry these things with me still whenever I go back. That
and you're so guarded with your life, even in new spaces. I know about that pouch. I think in our culture they call it a tabich. It's like an amulet. And they sew things and put it on babies. Oh, when the babies to stop certain. Oh, we have another thing called bad eye. For young babies, people can give your baby bad eye. So you have to tie a red ribbon bow on the baby or something red. And then you have this pouch that is inside. But in the pouch, I think it has asafoetida. This substance is, what is that? I don't know what it is in chemistry. But anyway, it's a certain substance is in there. And that is supposed to have a smell, an aroma that keeps the evil away and this bad eye away. And I've always asked, so you get bad eye at home. When you go to America, do you get bad eye? You know, I don't know. People can tell me. I don't know. I don't have children. But yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I don't know about the touch and the touch back. What I know, it's with the hair. We are told that nobody should touch our hair. People shouldn't braid your hair or touch your hair because there's good touch and bad touch for hair. So there is that kind of thing. I mean, some of them is like if they touch your hair, it wouldn't grow. But there are other things with touching of the hair, with the transfer of bad omen or bad vibes or something like that. Yeah, well, Verna, we could be here forever, but swapping stories. And as you know, my show is called What the Story Said. And so I did a little hand, a hand over another hand, and planting the seeds. So I tell this, and this What the Story Say is a thing we are saying in our village when we meet people that we've had relationships with, like long established relationships. We ask for stories. What does story say? And we swap stories. So what we just did here is a kind of what the story said. So I can come to you and we talk stories. And it's a good way of building relationships. It also can put off some people because some people who are not from storytelling cultures don't want to tell stories. You ask them what does story say, or you behave in a Creole influenced manner of what does story say. They find you too forward, too intrusive, and you can have negative pushback from that, because when you're approaching a person that you've known a while and you come with a what does story say attitude or expectation or performance, they might take it negatively. You know, that has happened to me in this culture. You know, you get a pushback and like, what is this about? And then I have to check myself and say, oh, I have been friends with you a while, and my Creole indigenous ways kicked in. And that is met with a certain kind of response. So we have to be careful about that. So I use it as my framework for my research studies, and it still is, and a framework for reciprocity. So I dig the stories and I find the stories and unpack the stories so we can have these multicultural, multi-layered, trans-cultural
experience. Right.
Yes. So thank you so much for this. We've been here a while. Yes. And this was unplanned, but when I was thinking about what I was going to do tomorrow, I thought, Verna's poem, but I better ask her. No, nobody can tell me better than she can. Yes. And that is a practice that I try to do rather than telling people stories. Let them tell their stories themselves. Because when you come from cultures such as ours, many people will come to tell our stories and perhaps think that they can tell it better than we do. But we have to tell our stories in ways that we want to tell our stories with no apologies.
Right.
Big and bold. All right. Thank you so much. And have a great, great day. Yes.
You too, Dr. Baird. It's good seeing you.
Yep. It's sun outside. Maybe I'll hit the beach this evening and just sit down and have ocean breeze. All right. Thank you so much and have a good one. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too, Dr. Baird.